Thank you for joining the Yes We Can podcast with Bishop Sherman, D.Manning. I am excited today. I'm excited. Listen, I have interviewed people on this podcast worth at least $100 million, but today tops the cake. We're interviewing our first billionaire with a B today. The first billionaire I have ever interviewed on this podcast. Now, this gentleman was a child actor. He starred with Sinbad in the 1996 Disney movie First Kid. I know some of y'all remember it. If you don't, Google it. He was also in The Mighty Ducks. He was in Problem Child and many other movies. He is an entrepreneur, venture capitalist. He is a philanthropist, and he is a cryptocurrency king, if you will. Brock Pierce is my guest today, and I'm very excited about it. Now, I know people are going to ask me, how did you get Brock? How did you get these people on the podcast? What kind of brilliant strategy are you using to get them? I'll tell you, I'm using the most brilliant strategy in the world, and that is the strategy of staying on my knees. If you will stay on your knees and seek God's face, he will elevate you. But if you try to elevate yourself, God will bring you down. So don't give the Sherman any credit. Give it all to God. Ladies and gentlemen, Brock Pierce is a fascinating man. Now, I must admit to you, he's wearing a big hat during the interview, and his background is not so great, but that is actually a blessing because he was not really prepared to do this podcast. He went out of his way, missed the flight, just got back from Africa, is in Washington, D.C., and so his background is not great. And the hat is sort of distracting, but just keep your eyes on the podcast. Listen to the words that are coming out of his mouth. This is a brilliant man. Billionaire with a B. Brock Pierce coming up. Welcome to Yes We Can podcast with Bishop Sherman D. Manning. My guest today is billionaire Brock Pierce. Mr. Pierce, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here.
So tell me, I know a lot about your past, but for my viewers who may not know who you are, tell me who you are.
My name is Brock Pierce, and I'm talking to you here from Washington, D.C.
And as a kid, you were a child actor in a few movies and films. Tell us a little bit about that background.
Well, I was born in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. I started working at the age of 3.
Okay.
I grew up as an actor, and I guess to a lesser extent a model, making commercials and things of that nature as a child. My first commercial was at 3, and also where my first memory in life takes place. Then, like a lot of kids in the Midwest, I grew up playing hockey. Okay. And Disney came to town to film The Mighty Ducks. Mm-hmm. I booked a role in my first movie as Gordon Bombay or young Emilio Estevez. And that led to making a number of other movies locally. And then Disney brought me out to California to shoot Mighty Ducks 2. And that led to me moving to California and making a bunch of movies. And then I decided that acting wasn't really my thing at about 15. I still made a couple more movies, but I was interested in being a technology entrepreneur. I wanted to build internet companies. And so I left the acting world at the age of 16 to found my first tech company, though oddly, I didn't think that I would ever be acting again. And now Ambassador John Voight persuaded me to star in a movie with him, which I did last summer, and it looks like we'll be doing another one this summer.
Fabulous. Full disclosure, I had to go back and watch The Mighty Ducks yesterday preparing to do this show. You also did something with Sinbad. What was that all about?
That was a movie I made when I was 14.
And how was that experience? How was Sinbad? Is he funny in real life?
Sinbad's amazing, and he was one of the only wholesome comedians to make it far in his career. You know, it's most comedy is often vulgar in terms of how it generates interest, crude humor. But he was very successful as a wholesome comedian. And so we started a movie together called First Kid, where I play the son of the president of the United States of America, with Sinbad as my Secret Service agent.
Right.
And cameos from Bill Clinton and Sonny Bono I've got you, babe.
Right, right. And you actually got to go to the White House, I read, during all of this.
I did. Disney actually was working on Chelsea Clinton and I going out on a meeting. I wouldn't say a date,
Okay.
but
Okay.
yeah, that was I got to spend some time in the White House.
Wait a minute. Inquiring minds want to know. So it looks like you're holding back on something. But anyway, so
Oh, the campaign for his reelection was going on, and so it never got coordinated. So
okay, okay.
that never went anywhere, to be clear.
All right,
Um,
all right.
but yeah, no, I've been back to the White House many times. I'm here in Washington D.C. right now.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, you were in Africa a couple of days ago. What, may I ask, what were you doing there?
I just got back from Africa yesterday. I was in Ghana, and so West Africa, in its capital of Accra. And so I was there speaking at a conference called the Prophetic Business Conference with pastors,
Wait a minute.
reverends,
Hold on. Back up. Wait a minute. Come on now. You know I'm a pastor.
bishops
You
from
got to
all
back
over
up.
Africa, including from around the world. And I gave the final sermon.
Wow.
Uh, so I was there principally for that, but I also ended up going and giving a sermon to another 100 pastors from around Ghana. It was not to your typical congregation, but leadership.
Right.
And lots of other meetings. Met the president's brother, a lot of the top business leaders. The things that I typically do when I visit a country is understand, what it is that's going on there, what it is that a nation state needs, how I can be of service.
Now, you said prophetic business. Unpack that for me. What is that all about? What does that mean?
I don't mean profit. I mean like profit
Okay.
with an F, but a PH.
Okay.
So profit is in profits. Prophetic, is talking about the importance of godliness and call it good values, morals in how one conducts themselves in business, and that those that are doing God's work, are needed in the business world. The business world is where a lot of the change is created in the world, and encouraging men of God or people for that matter to engage in high integrity, high morality business.
Do you think there's a possibility that in the future we can get you to come here to LA to talk to some of our prophets about the same issues?
I make it to LA a few times a year. So, if we coordinate well, I'm always happy to serve.
Very good, very good. I also read where you are pro-Israel, and that caught my attention because I'm the president of JABA here in LA, which is Jews and Blacks Association, where we try to rekindle the spirit and the cooperation between Jews, Blacks, and others. We have members who are neither Jewish nor Black. So I was curious, what made you become so pro-Israel? Is it based on the Bible, based on your home life, family life, or what?
Well, I mean, in terms of Abrahamic religions, you can't be a Christian without knowing the Old Testament. And so I spend a lot of my time with men of faith. So, I have two rabbis in my house right now,
Wow.
as we speak. Prior to going to Africa, I was in Ukraine for chief rabbi of Israel, chief rabbi of Ukraine's birthday. And so I first arrived in Moldova to meet the chief rabbi of Moldova. Then I drove into the war zone, stopping at a very holy site for the Jewish people, specifically the Hasidic Jewish people. It's the cemetery or graveyard and synagogue, as well as the holy spring of the great Rabbi Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement in the early 1700s. He was a reformer. And right as I arrived, all the sirens started going off, warning of potential incoming attacks. Spent the night there because there's curfews. And then drove into Kiev the following day. There's no planes that go into Ukraine and haven't for a couple of years now. Found my way into Ukraine for Shabbat, for the Sabbath, and participated in Shabbat dinner and the rabbi's birthday, and the following day, the birthday party, and the bar mitzvah, and then a Sunday bar mitzvah with the ambassador of Israel. And so I spent a lot of time with the Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been to Israel many times.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was the second private jet to land in Israel after October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I know there's a lot of controversy
Mm-hmm.
around everything that's been happening there, but clearly what the unprovoked attack, has elicited a very, strong response, and I feel the Jewish people have been persecuted for a very long time, and I like to stand with like the Mighty Ducks, the underdogs,
Absolutely.
and I know that it's a difficult situation to for some to understand what is right and wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but I spend a lot of time with Israel, and I spent a lot of time in the Middle East. I'll be in Dubai later this month.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very close relationship with the Jewish people.
Wonderful. I know you're busy. If you get a chance, Google Rabbi Josef Kanefsky. He is the associate president of our organization here, and I call him a reverse gear that goes backwards. He is a progressive Orthodox, which to many sounds almost like an oxymoron. But I've learned a lot about the Jewish people through him, and I've had Jewish friends since I was 12 years old growing up in Atlanta, Georgia. And we were discussing a couple of weeks ago the fact that the Jews were doing pretty good for a long time. And then here comes Hitler. So we have to always be, I believe, conscious of what goes on with the Jewish people. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that you can't be a Christian without knowing the Old Testaments. And if you know the Old Testament, you know what God feels about the Jewish people. But I was very impressed when I read that a couple of days ago as it regards to you. May I ask you, what is the, and I may be mispronouncing it, the Integro organization, or is it Integro? What is that all about?
Well, Integro is a Puerto Rican nonprofit in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Integro has two meanings depending upon the inflection.
Mm-hmm.
One is integrity.
Mm-hmm.
The other is integration. And so as an outsider, I established that was given to me by a wonderful person, Janelle in Puerto Rico. And that's been the basis of my nonprofit work in Puerto Rico the last 7 years.
Okay.
We've supported over 150, maybe 200 different nonprofits, maybe more, in Puerto Rico, and done, kind of giving to a lot of causes,
Mm-hmm.
usually smaller organizations that are very efficient with resources.
Right.
And usually very limited in terms of their access to them.
Mm-hmm.
And turns out giving away money effectively is very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went through that sort of journey of learning. And it also helped me understand all of the issues that exist in Puerto Rico by not focusing on a singular issue, but at least in small ways, supporting every issue. And then with further support in the areas where it was most warranted or where the merit supported it.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wanted to innovate. I'm an innovator.
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually do things the way that other people do. I have a tendency to invent and
Mm-hmm.
create ways of doing things in almost everything I do.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm doing something that looks normal, it's because I'm just studying.
Okay.
It's how I pay tuition. It's how I go to school. It's how I learn. And as I begin to understand a system, I understand how it can be transformed or improved. And so it took me years to find one. At first, I was like, oh, should Integro evolve into, maybe it should just be a pass-through entity, which it principally is,
Mm-hmm.
bringing money in and allowing it to flow to the things that donors are interested in supporting,
Mm-hmm.
but with 100% of that money passing through to the underlying cause and organization. And we are effectively an underwriting organization. We vet organizations, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've covered 100% of the overhead
Mm-hmm.
for its entire existence. And I've also been by far the largest donor.
Mm-hmm.
But I still wanted to find something, really innovative. And so I was like, well, maybe I could be a Y Combinator for startups in Puerto Rico, and an accelerator potentially, which we do that. We help a lot of nonprofits get set up and help them accelerate or incubate. I still wasn't satisfied there. I wanted to find, something really impactful, because the idea of $1 of charity going directly to the underlying cause is, it's efficient. A dollar stays a dollar
Right.
on charity. But I wanted to, with the background in business and entrepreneurship and venture capital, I wanted to see how to really deliver an ROI. But rather than a return on investment, the idea was a return on impact. So how do I give $1 to charity and have that dollar become 10?
Right.
And so it took a while, but we cracked the code on that. And it turns out in Puerto Rico, because of the language difficulties that sometimes exist, being Spanish and English and not all English, and the main source of multiplying capital, which is government grants, being in the United States and being on an island far removed, and grant writing being complicated, there are a lot of grants available to Puerto Rican organizations that they've never pursued. U.S. mainland is much more effective in doing that. And so what we learned is we can go find great organizations that are doing great work. And rather than writing them a check, we can pay for, subsidize, and manage the grant writing. For example, we helped an organization in Vieques get a $2.9 million grant to preserve the most vibrant, many consider to be the best bioluminescent bay in the world. We're able to get them $2.9 million, and it cost less than $25,000 to do so.
Wow.
In that case, it was over a 100x return on the impact in terms of dollars donated to dollars handed to the underlying charity. And so I found that to be pretty impressive. I've never met anyone that's ever done charity where, give me $1 and I'll turn it into 10 or turn it into 20.
Neither have I. Neither have I.
Usually 10 to 20x. And I think that's a pretty compelling thing. I mean, if I'm going to give money to charity, I'd rather do it that way. I'd rather know that, my dollar stretches and goes further and multiplies. And so that's a little bit about Integro.
Okay. No, you don't have much time, so ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this. I hope you're enjoying this fascinating interview with this fascinating man, Brock Pierce. Listen, please remember, Yes We Can Worship Center houses the homeless and we feed the hungry. Most of you all know that I have partnered with Noberto Nardi. Please take a look at nardiworks.com when you get a chance. I partner with this famous, world-renowned architect, author, professor, etc., and we are building tiny homes for the homeless right here in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the city of angels, but it is also the homeless capital of the world. I read that we are the 6th largest city for millionaires in the country, but we're the homeless capital of the world. That's not right. That's not fair. We have to change that. And one of the things we're doing with our Tiny Homes Project is this is transformational, holistic housing, if you will. I've learned my first couple of years of housing the homeless and feeding the hungry that if you just get them off the streets, most of them will go right back to where they started. But you got to change the heart and you got to put something in the head. So this is transformational housing where we're not just giving people a hand out, we're giving them a hand up. Take a look at our website. I think it's right on the screen, actually. That is the Tiny Homes Project, and that's a message that I give there. The tinyhomesproject.com. Listen, it costs $25,000 to build one tiny home. Initially, we're building 15, and then we're going to scale it and do it all over the city. You can sponsor an entire tiny home. Some of you can do that. You can partially sponsor a tiny home. But guess what? If every person watching me right now would simply send $10, it would make a difference and help us get toward our goal. The problem is, a lot of people watch these podcasts, they shout out that it was a great podcast, great job, but they don't send a dime. Great job is helpful. I appreciate it. Your prayers are wonderful, but it's going to take money to fund the project. So if you're watching me right now, free podcast, brilliant information that you can't get anywhere else, please be kind enough to at least send $10 to help us house the homeless. Now, I want to tell you about our books. I've written 23 of them. This is one of them. Creating Monsters is a book that basically tells you why you don't want to go to prison. Every young man in this country needs to read this book, Creating Monsters. Go to Amazon.com, get your copy today. I will use some of the proceeds to help fund the Tiny Homes Project. After you read that book, you need to get this book. This is From the Palace to the Prison, loosely based on the life of Joseph in Genesis chapter 37. All I can tell you is that it is an awesome read. It's very important. Every young man should have this, and young women for that matter, old men and old women allowed also. Go to Amazon.com and get a copy. I've written 23 books altogether, but these two I highly recommend that you take a look at today. On this podcast, ladies and gentlemen, I've interviewed everybody from the new chief of police. I haven't even released that interview yet, by the way, of LA County, LA City, that is. He's a former sheriff, to Reverend Al Sharpton, to now we're interviewing a billionaire. So some of you are new to the podcast and you haven't seen our work before. So I'd like for you to take a look at some of these interviews that we've done. We're going to start with Humberto Guizar. Now, he was a gang member, a gang leader, and now he is one of the best civil attorneys in the city of Los Angeles. That is Humberto Guizar. After that, you're going to see one of the best criminal lawyers on planet Earth. His name is Tom Mesereau. He represented the king of pop, Michael Jackson, in his 14-count trial. He was exonerated and vindicated of all charges. After that clip, you're going to see the new chief of police, Chief Jim McDonald, my friend. And the last clip we're going to show you is Reverend Al Sharpton. Take a look at this.
One of the guys that was a real hardcore criminal that came through that same type of program.
Wow.
That turned his life around. And
wow.
And
I'm very familiar with the Guardian Angels, right? I remember that.
To help save people, right? And he would not be shy away from gang members, and he would confront the gang problem. And he got on a mission. A lot of us that turn their life around like that got on a mission. One of my best friends who went in the same program turned his life around. He became a lieutenant in the police department.
Wow.
I won't throw his name out here, but he flipped it, he went on that side, and me and him don't see eye to eye. You know?
Right.
But I always remind him, you were one of those guys that got a chance.
Right.
And you act like everybody else doesn't deserve to have a chance.
Right.
And then he calls all the other people scumbags, you know. That's
you.
what people of color like myself and other African American attorneys or people that become DAs, they forget that it's not that they're chosen one.
Right.
They forget there's other people didn't get the same chance.
That's right.
So we need to give, like I like your mantra, give people another chance.
Yes.
And if we have an institutional process, some kind of structure that would allow for that to happen, some feasibility for that to happen, that would be great. But how do you get people to spend their tax dollars to do that? People aren't very receptive to that.
No, they're not. Which is why they're trying to run Gascon out of office. You want to say before we go, Mr. Mesereau?
Well, I want to first of all thank you again, Pastor Manning, for inviting me on the show, for giving me an opportunity to express myself the way you have. I think one of the things our society needs is we have to encourage people to express themselves. We have to encourage people that they have value no matter what stage they're in life, whether they're on the street, whether they're in a big mansion, I don't care who they are. People are troubled, people are complicated, people have issues, and we need to let them know at all times they have value, and that's what God does. And
now, I see where you graduated from the academy in 1981 and became a police officer at that time. What have you learned over these 30 or 40 years of policing about policing that might help you in your duties now as chief of police?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when you come in, you have kind of an idealistic attitude, and you think you can solve everything and do it by yourself. The longer you stay out there on the street, and the longer you work in this business, you realize that it's very complex, very nuanced. What you thought you saw is different than what you actually saw, and that you need to get to know people to really know what's going on, and that's over an extended period of time. And everything is based on trust, everything that's going to work. And so I think it's a lesson that you can't really teach.
So tell us about the medal that he gave you, the award.
When there was a young man and two of his friends was driving through what they call the Howard Beach section of Queens. Car broke down. They didn't allow blacks in the neighborhood. They chased them and killed them in Howard Beach. I started leading marches out there, and Hosea Williams was getting ready to do Forsyth County. He
Forsyth County.
flew
I was
to
there. I was there. I was there.
All right. Well, you
Yes,
know what I'm
sir.
talking about.
Yes, sir.
He
I was
flew,
there at
he
both
flew to New
marches.
York
Right.
and said that what I was doing was in the King tradition, and he only gives the King medallions to people that are in that tradition. James Orange was with him,
Yes.
and he put it on my.
We are interviewing Brock Pierce, a fascinating man who's done a lot of fascinating things. And Mr. Pierce, I have a confession now. Since I've had this podcast, I've interviewed people worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but you have just set the record. You're the first billionaire that I've ever interviewed on Yes We Can podcast with Bishop Sherman D.Manning. So I do have a question for you. Sounds kind of childish, but what does it feel like being a billionaire?
I think it's something that everyone can be, certainly if you use my preferred definition.
Okay.
For many, many years, I've often explained and I've given speeches on the concept that words and their meaning and, the definition. And the definition I prefer to use is that a billionaire to me isn't someone with $1 billion,
Okay.
but it's someone that's positively impacting the lives of 1 billion people.
Mm.
And that's something that everyone can do if you get involved and devote your time, your purpose to things that have a large impact. And it doesn't necessarily matter what your role in that is, right? You're part of the teamwork that makes that dream work. And as a member of a team, in a noble and worthy mission or cause, you can get to the point that you can impact a very large segment of the world.
Wow. And not to give a shameless plug, but I had David Meltzer on recently, and he wrote a book called Connected to Goodness. And he's talking about trying to influence, I think it's 1 billion people to do good and to be happy. Sort of reminds me a little bit of what you just said. To a person who knows nothing, absolutely nothing, Mr. Pierce, about cryptocurrency, can you give us a layman's seminar concisely? What is cryptocurrency?
Cryptocurrency is a new novel innovation. It emerged initially as a thing called Bitcoin. The concept was revealed in 2008, and it launched in early 2009. And as a novel idea that had incredible merit and potential, more and more people discovered what it is, how it works, and why it's important. And as a result of that, it's become a very big thing.
Okay.
8% of the American population now have some. And meaning this is no longer a fringe concept.
Okay.
The president of the United States, we have a crypto president now, has on March 7th, meaning less than a month ago, now implemented the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, where the U.S. government is now accumulating Bitcoin through confiscation, but accumulating and holding Bitcoin in the equivalent of a digital Fort Knox on its balance sheet as a strategic reserve for the country and the country's future. The banking industry is now banking it. And the most simple way to describe what Bitcoin is it's a scarce resource that utilizes what we call the blockchain, the underlying technology that enabled Bitcoin. Blockchain is the operating system, like on your iPhone or your Android. And think of Bitcoin just as the first application, on it.
Now, aren't you the co-founder of blockchain?
Well, I'm the chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation, which is the oldest organization in the industry. I was elected as its chairman, and so I've been serving in this capacity since 2014. I did start Blockchain Capital, which was the first venture capital firm in the sector that funded most of the great companies early on. It's one of the most successful venture capital firms of all time.
Okay.
I was definitely instrumental in popularizing the terminology blockchain.
Okay.
Not to be confused with a blockchain.
Right. Okay, now I've seen, not to be controversial, but I've seen a couple of people go to prison behind cryptocurrency. I mean, there's one in New York now. I won't call his name. I don't know much about the case, but there seems to be a level of fraud that is possible. But that's possible in any field, as we know. Do you fear that kind of thing? Do you, or what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like technology or money itself, right? Any of these things. They're inherently amoral.
Okay.
They're not good or bad by their nature.
Right, right.
How you use them determines the impact they have. So like take electricity. I can use it to make an electric chair or a light bulb.
Right, right, right.
Look at splitting atoms in nuclear technology. I can make an atomic bomb, a nuclear bomb, or I can create a nuclear power plant that is clean, abundant, low-cost energy.
Precisely.
So inherently, a blockchain is a distributed database, meaning that it is incredibly resilient because it's not run by a centralized server. It's decentralized or distributed, meaning it's incredibly resilient and no one owns or controls it. So you can't go to someone and say, shut that off, because it's run by a network of nodes or computers all over the place, or a different mechanism, but where there's no single point of failure. By its design, it's extremely resilient. It's also transparent. Okay. Normally, people that want to do bad things like to do it in the shadows.
Correct.
Generally, I wouldn't advise you to do bad things on transparent systems. It's also the most secure system the world has ever seen, by far. There's nothing else that compares to the security of the Bitcoin network. It's the most powerful computing system. It's also worth noting that by its nature, it's the internet has a read-write function, right? Read, write, edit. You can edit things. When something is written into a blockchain, it's permanent.
Okay.
And which means that his story or history can't be just written by victors. It becomes a single source of truth. So when your actions are permanent, it should make people think quite a bit about the decisions they make. And so at its core, a system that is running like that is inherently transparent and secure, is probably not an ideal environment for bad behavior. But yes, of course, still some people are going to do bad things. And clearly when you have an emerging technology that most people don't understand and they see lots of money involved, the temptation and greed can lead to people not exercising discernment, not doing their research, and charlatans will take advantage of that asymmetry of information to find those that are eager to make a quick buck and attempt to defraud or scam them. And so I've never once in any of my speeches encouraged people to invest in Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency for that matter. I only encourage you to invest in yourself and your own knowing so that you can make informed decisions for yourself, which is why if you go back and watch any of my interviews, you'll hear me say, buy $100, buy $50, $20 if that's too much, $10, because it's not a financial investment. It's like, imagine if someone told you this email thing is going to be a big deal and you're not going to have to buy postage stamps and wait days and write letters. You can actually just like use a keyboard and type some messages and someone will be able to receive it at no cost anywhere in the world instantaneously.
Right.
I'd say that's a pretty profound innovation. And based upon what I said about even what the US government is doing today, if you are not yet familiar with this technology, I would advise you to familiarize yourself because the future, the world is changing. And if you want to be successful in the future, you're going to need some training and, an education in something so important to our future that you can get for the cost of a cup of coffee is probably worth that investment of your time.
Okay. So I house homeless people here in Los Angeles. So most of the people that God has called me to serve don't have a lot of means. But at the same time, I'm always bringing in inspirational speakers. Brought in Michael Jackson's lawyer, Tom Mesereau, came to our church, spoke, has been on the podcast, is a strong supporter. what I would ask you is for people who don't have, as you just said a moment ago, a lot of money or a lot of means, but at the same time, we don't want them to be ignorant of this cryptocurrency thing. What do you suggest? So if tomorrow morning I want to begin researching cryptocurrency because I don't want to be in the dark, I want to get an education, is there a book you would recommend? Is there a course you would recommend that I take? What should I do?
I think it's what I just said. Go buy $5, $10, $20 worth. You can spend a lot of time reading it, but using it is generally the easiest first step.
Okay.
Most people won't start a book and finish it.
Right.
Spending the 20 minutes it takes to open a Coinbase account or a Kraken account or a Gemini account, a crypto.com account. There's a number of them, but make sure you do some research on whichever one you use. There are systems that are built to defraud and scam you, so make sure that you're choosing a widely known and trustworthy source. Open up an account and figure out how to make a deposit. There's a bunch of other ways. You can go online, or better yet, use ChatGPT or any one of these sort of AI services and ask it for guidance. There's nothing here that's that complicated. And then once you've done that, you're going to have learned something, not by having read it, but by having done it. There's a difference between being a knower and a doer. The act of doing itself will teach you quite a bit that you just learn through the process. And with that, hopefully it sparks your curiosity further. You can go onto YouTube and watch videos. I mean, whatever your preferred form of media is, right? Some people go onto Twitter, go follow 10 of the most important people in the industry, or go onto YouTube, watch videos, go do start chatting with ChatGPT about it. It's whatever your preferred form of learning is what I'd advise you to use. If you're a book reader, you can go read Michael Turpin's Bitcoin Super Cycle that recently came out. But it depends on we all learn differently, and so choose your preferred method.
Off topic, what do you think has kept you so humble? A person of your means, a person who, I know a lot of people, and I don't want to be stereotypical. So let me preface this by saying I know some broke people who are arrogant and cocky and egotistical. So this is not just about money, but to be a billionaire known around the world as you are, what do you think has kept you so grounded and so humble?
God.
Amen.
I think that's the short and probably most thorough answer. We can get into more detail of it. Actually, last night I was being criticized by someone by going, "You're too successful, too smart, too humble, too nice, cool. Like nobody has the whole package. How can you be all of these things at once? Like, it's not fair." But I think the answer is, God. I give credit for all my accomplishments to God. I'll only take credit for the mistakes.
Amen. To God be the glory. Now, I can't let you go without talking a moment about Wendy Williams. So I've known who you were, or are, I should say, known of you since I was a kid, since I watched you in the movies and the TV shows and all of that other good stuff. But you came back to my attention a few days ago when, in fact, that I saw Wendy Williams protest right here in Los Angeles yesterday. I uploaded it to my YouTube where people were protesting Free Wendy. And I love Wendy, and I really don't think I like the way she's being treated. But I saw you in the news where you offered to allow her to live in a mansion and have 24 hours per day care. Tell me a little bit about that and what led you to make that proposal.
Well, I mean, I'm a very purpose-driven individual, and seeing a person, in this case, Wendy Williams, held against her will as an adult
Yes.
in a facility, whatever trouble she's going through, but against her will, depriving her of her liberty when it's unclear that that's where she needed to be. And she put out a message.
Yes.
She put a message to a window saying, help.
Yes.
You know how often you might be walking down the street and see someone of help, or you know how many stories there are of, you know, someone needing help, but then no one actually showing up because someone assumes that someone else is going to do it.
Right.
I'm a man of initiative.
Mm-hmm.
I take action. I see something, I see a problem, and if I have an answer, a way to solve it, I feel a responsibility to try.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this was symbolically a great travesty
Mm-hmm.
without having all of the clarity.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure she's going through something
Mm-hmm.
that led to these circumstances, but it's certainly on the surface, from what I gathered, it seemed wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to make sure to continue to be someone that takes initiative. And I said, hey, I've got properties. I have properties that sit empty.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if I have the potential to do something good with, you know, a house that's sitting, you know, largely empty, and I can help someone to address, you know, a travesty that is, you know, not just at an individual level, but at a national level because of the impact it's having in the media.
Mm.
You know, how does that make you think about your own life?
Mm.
And they can do that to her.
Right. Right. What's next?
Maybe
And who's
maybe
next?
maybe they can do that to you.
That's right. That's right.
And you have to understand that if we don't stand up to injustice,
Mm-hmm.
that's how we end up with a world that doesn't have it.
I think it was Dr. King who said injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Mentioning empty properties, you ain't got none in California that are empty, do you? Because we're trying to. You know, I'm in the homeless capital of the world, and we're trying to house some homeless people here. Let me ask you this. It's going to sound like a complicated question, but it really isn't, and I'm trying to unpack it because I didn't plan to ask it. But I can't have this much knowledge in the room and not ask you this. I want to ask you if you were in my position what you would do, but I have a feeling that you wouldn't answer it that way for me. I want to ask you this. You are a person who has helped charities around the world, so you know that when you have $1 million, much less $1 billion, everybody and their mother wants a donation. So you get donation requests all the time. You might remember the first time I texted you, I said, this is not a request for a donation, because I know that people get pulled on all the time. At the same time, when you're trying to house the homeless in the homeless capital of the world, when you have a good mayor, I mean, Brock, we have a good mayor. Karen Bass is a good mayor. I don't care what anybody says about her. She inherited a lot of problems. She has not been a perfect mayor, but who has? She's a good mayor. But government can't solve this homeless problem in Los Angeles. So I've got a team of people, a brilliant architect, world-renowned, Norberto Nardi, and a lot of us are working together. And the Jewish community is helping. But a lot of people that you would expect might help are not helping. I put out a call to celebrities. So the only thing we need to raise is $1 million to get this done. And maybe 20 celebrities who know me. And only one of them wrote a check for $100,000, which is better than nothing. But it didn't get us to where we wanted to be. So if you were in the position of a charity trying to help resolve a huge problem in the city of Los Angeles, what would you do?
Oof. My first comment is I haven't lost faith in humanity,
Okay.
but I have to say, you know, when I really started devoting a meaningful amount of my time and energy to philanthropic work,
Mm-hmm.
it's been heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
Heartbreaking how much effort, how much time I have to take to get people engaged, to
Right.
care and do something.
Mm-hmm.
I see so much abundance and so few people willing to do things. It's been one of the most difficult things that I've, you know, had to learn,
Mm-hmm.
which is charity is really hard. Because people just aren't charitable.
That's right.
It's, you know, I mean, if, you know, since we're talking about biblical things, what was the compact with God that Jacob had?
Mm-hmm.
Jacob's compact with God was he was going to give 10%.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, somehow society is somewhat lost, and it doesn't understand, the importance of that. And I think at the largest levels of the crux of the issue is that fear causes people to hoard
Right.
and create a lot of blockage in the flow of resources. And so, like the way that I describe money is just a form of stored energy. Energy. As Bruce Lee would say, it wishes to flow. Like what? Because it's a current. See?
Right.
We're just meant to be conductors, allowing it to move through us. And as conductors, directing it to the people, places, and things that we wish to see changed or impacted. And but be good stewards, be responsible custodians. And so, it's been it's tough in terms of how to do it. I mean, you got to get the message out, right? It's if a tree falls in the forest and no one sees it, that therein lies part of the problem is people have to see the work that you're doing. The people have to be aware of the work that you're doing, and then somehow, break through the clutter of noise and distractions and all the other things that are trying to get people's attention or resources.
Right.
So it requires, really purpose-driven people at the, running these organizations, or great messaging and content and getting people on the internet to see it and getting the news or, the radio to talk about it, or do events that, bring people together. I haven't discovered any other ways yet. I hope I crack the code on this at some point, but I haven't done that yet. I figured out how to turn $1 into money. I haven't figured out how to get people more charitable. I mean, other than trying to live by example, and that has not been very effective yet.
Right.
I bought a hospital out of bankruptcy in Puerto Rico, and left it in a for-profit structure, hoping that I could, get people to at least invest into, things that matter.
Right.
Okay, maybe charity doesn't work for you, but what about an investment?
Right.
And even that broke my heart. Getting people to care about even their own healthcare system in the places they live.
Right.
It's been tough. I trust me. I know the struggle.
Right.
And as I'm
encouraged.
I possibly can with the time and resources I've been given, getting, others, to do the same is harder. And that's why I'm spending time with the one thing I find is that godly people tend to be more charitable. And so, spend, time with more godly people. Back to the earlier part of the conversation, prophetic business.
Yes.
Let's empower business leaders that understand that those resources are not really theirs. They belong to God.
Yes.
And if you find people that have faith, you're going to have better luck there, because people that think that it's theirs and that it belongs to them and it's them that got it for them, it's just harder. They're reluctant to share.
Well, a lot of people are going to watch this interview just because you're Brock Pierce. A lot are going to watch just because you're a billionaire. And I hope some of them will receive that message. And while we're at it, the Bible says that he that gives to the poor lends unto God. He that gives to the poor lends unto God. Messaging, Mr. Pierce, would you help us in this way? Would you look into your camera and say, please take a look at the tinyhomesproject.com?
Please take a look at tinyhomesproject.com.
Thank you. That's very helpful. So how long are you going to be in D.C., my friend?
I'm supposed to be in a car going to the airport right now and flying, but I couldn't do this with you yesterday. And so I missed my flight this morning, and then I got moved to another flight, and I'm now missing that flight. So this is my third flight that I've missed, but I'm pretty confident I will be out of here by morning.
Well, look, I'm sorry. Look, we thank you for taking this time with us.
I barely sleep. I travel around the world. I mean, I'm going to be gone to Puerto Rico for a day, then New York for a day, then Paris for 2 days, then Serbia for 2 days, then Romania for a day. I mean, I live my life in the fullest service doing everything I possibly can with the time that I've been so blessed to have been given.
I know the feeling. I don't travel like you travel. I work 20 hours a day. I was stabbed on Skid Row trying to house a homeless man 26 times a few years ago and nearly killed me. I got up the next day after surgery and went right back to work because I just believe that if you keep doing the work, it's going to come together sooner or later. And we're almost there now. I do want to say that we want you to come to LA for JABA, Jews and Blacks Association. I know Rabbi Konevsky is watching. I know Adrian is watching. I know my friend, chairman of my board of directors, Christian organization, by the way, Brock, is a Jewish lawyer by the name of John Eisen. And that's an oxymoron, but we're working together and we would love to bring you here to talk about prophetic business and a lot. That would be my main thing and a lot of other things. I would like to, that I have a lot of inner city kids that it sounds bad, but it's really true. They've never seen a billionaire in their lifetime. Just to see you would inspire them to let them know that if you can do it, they can do it too. Whenever you're coming back to California, let's coordinate. We got to get you to Yes We Can Worship Center. We got to get you to JABA. We need you to keep going, doing what you're doing. I salute you. Thank you for what you said for Wendy. And before you go, is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
Well, I mean, keep up the good work. And yes, I'd be, grateful on, one of the next trips to Los Angeles to visit the organization and make the time for that. I mean, there's almost nothing more important than the youth. They are the next generation. This is whom we do it all for. And, I just pray for our generation to have done the best work we can to empower them. And so, and in the inspiring people is so important. So I would be grateful to come spend time with the youth to hopefully inspire them, to show them that everyone's life matters. Every one of us is here for a reason. Every one of us has a purpose. And so anything I can do to inspire people to find that and put them on the right path early in life, I would be grateful to do.
Absolutely. And the purpose God allowed you to miss that plane was so you could be here with us today. Yes, we can.
Well, I did it intentionally because I wasn't going to have this happen 2 days in a row.
Okay. Well, God through you did it.
I'm not going to put you through that a second day in a row. And I believe everything happens for a reason. God probably needs me to be doing something more here tonight.
Absolutely. Well, you've done something. You've probably inspired thousands today and don't even know it.
I'll know something more today because otherwise we would have gotten it done some other way. So I guess I wasn't meant to leave just yet. And I already saw why that was. But Hope, who is kind of mother of my property here, and I'm like, is my bag packed? Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, I'm on Capitol Hill, with Michael Harris, co-founder of Death Row Records. We do criminal justice reform in this house. And I'm like, oh, and Jordan? And where was Jordan? And I'm like, okay, I'm in the middle of meeting with the head of the computer science program I have in the house right now of Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. There's big stuff going on with the university system, and I'm trying to help solve a major crisis on the university level. I'm in the middle of a very important conversation. Bags aren't packed. No one's here. They're off doing things on Capitol Hill. I've got your thing coming up. I'm like, and then I have a really important friend who flew into town that I probably need to finish a conversation with. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not going anywhere. But I take it easy, man plans, God laughs, and, I go with the flow and grateful to be on the ride.
Absolutely. So Brock, if you ever find a dilapidated building or hospital in California, again, that you want to buy, you don't have to give it to us. Just allow us to put homeless people there. Because one thing, if you ever get a chance, take a look at the tinyhomesproject.com. We don't just give people a handout, we give them a hand up. This is transformational housing. I don't just house their bodies. We transform their minds. We put them in seminars. We teach them job skills. This is a holistic approach to housing, unlike anything that's ever been done in this country, because I'm like you. I believe in being creative and innovative. And I figured out after about 2 years of housing people, I would look around and 6 months later, they'd be homeless again, that it was something in the head and the heart that needed to be changed in order to transform them so that they would not go back to where they came to before. Okay. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We thank Brock Pierce for taking an hour with us at Yes We Can podcast with Bishop Sherman D.Manning. Remember, we can change this world. We can do it together. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.